In 2024, Spotify, the music streaming giant, announced something that took 16 years to achieve: profits. With a jump in its paying subscribers from 236 million to over 260 million, an 11% increase, one might think the platform has finally found its balance. However, behind this facade of success, controversies not only persist but seem to intensify. Year after year, Spotify faces multi-million-dollar lawsuits, accusations of exploiting artists, and using songs without proper licenses. But now, an even darker shadow looms over the company. The way they achieved that coveted profitability might be their most questionable maneuver to date. Spotify practically invented the music streaming industry and has dominated over 30% of the market for years. But if they always had so many subscribers, how is it possible they weren't profitable until now? The answer lies on a path riddled with costly battles, most stemming from one critical area: royalties. Spotify transformed the music industry, but it's debatable whether it was for the better, especially for artists. A clear example was in 2014, when Taylor Swift pulled her 5 albums from the platform in protest of its royalty system. The CEO of her record label claimed that Spotify only paid her $500,000 for her US streams that year, a minuscule figure compared to her physical album sales. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. In 2017, Wixon Music Publishing sued Spotify for $1.6 billion, alleging the unauthorized use of over 10,000 songs. And it wasn't the first time. In 2018, Spotify paid $112 million in a settlement for unpaid royalties in a different lawsuit. These controversies are a constant. It seems artists bear the brunt, and it's crucial to understand how this system works. Much like the transition from cable to video streaming, music streaming is far less profitable for creators than previous models. For an emerging musician, Spotify can offer greater reach. But for established artists, income is drastically lower compared to physical sales or radio deals. Many believe artists get paid per 1,000 streams, but the reality is more complex. From your Spotify subscription, approximately 30% goes to the platform, and 70% is allocated to artists. Or so it seems. Unlike other platforms that use a user-centric system, where your money goes to the artists you listen to, Spotify employs the pro rata model. Imagine all royalties in one big pot. Then, they are distributed according to the percentage of total listens on the platform. This means that even if you don't listen to the most popular artists, a significant portion of your subscription ends up in their hands, or rather, in the hands of their major record labels. Artists outside the top 1% receive very little. To aggravate the situation, record giants like Sony and Universal Music Group, UMG, are major Spotify shareholders. This creates an incentive for Spotify to promote music from these labels through its algorithm and curated playlists. UMG has even been accused of withholding nearly $750 million owed to its artists after accepting reduced payments from Spotify in exchange for company stock. 8 out of 10 music creators on Spotify earn less than £200, British pounds, a year from streaming. Although Spotify doesn't pay per individual stream, the estimated average is a meager £0.009 per stream, a figure that has also decreased. Between 2018 and 2020, the average payout per stream dropped by 43%. But royalties are only part of the problem. Spotify has been embroiled in another, potentially more serious scandal. The platform has full control over what you see and the music it promotes, with a clear incentive to push whatever generates more money. But what if they only pushed music that offers them maximum benefit, even if it means creating it themselves? In 2016, attentive users began to notice the appearance of artists with generic names and zero online presence, prominently featured in ambient playlists like Piano and Chill or Chill Jazz, almost always with instrumental tracks. The suspicion was that these artists might not be real. Spotify flatly denied these allegations. However, the scandal persisted. In 2022, a Swedish newspaper investigated the independent label Firefly Entertainment, uncovering a list of 830 apparently fake artist names, almost 500 of them present in Spotify's official playlists. They also found that a Swedish composer, Johan Rohr, had reportedly released music under 50 composer aliases and over 656 invented artist names, accumulating over 2,700 songs and 15 billion streams. Music writer David Turner revealed through data analysis that Spotify's popular ambient chill playlist had been progressively stripped of well-known artists and replaced with music from Epidemic Sound, a royalty-free music service. The implicit accusation is that Spotify paid producers to create large quantities of songs under non-existent artist names, which would then be promoted in its playlists. This way, Spotify would keep a much larger portion, if not all, of the royalties. In 2022, music writer Liz Pelly, after interviewing former employees and reviewing internal Spotify records and Slack messages, uncovered the existence of the Perfect Fit Content Program. Under this program, Spotify employees were responsible for taking commissioned music and creating curated playlists with it. This means that real musicians not only face a highly competitive industry, but also compete against ghost artists pushed by the platform itself. Throughout its existence until 2024, Spotify accumulated losses of hundreds of millions each year. So what changed for Spotify to suddenly become profitable? Although the adoption of streaming was slow at first and took over a decade to generate significant revenue for the industry, this isn't the only factor. There was a massive and recent change. In late 2023, Spotify introduced audiobooks to its premium subscription, offering 15 hours of listening per month and a catalog of over 300,000 titles. CEO Daniel Ek explained that this addition boosted their gross margins to 30%, even before their 2025 target, and that the positive story would continue. Spotify has paid tens of millions to audiobook publishers. It sounds like a win for everyone. More profits for Spotify, more value for users, more income for authors. But here's the twist. By adding audiobooks, Spotify reclassified its premium offering as a bundle. Under US copyright law, this allows them to pay music songwriters less, an estimated reduction of $150 million in music royalty payments. This triggered a wave of lawsuits, including one from the Mechanical Licensing Collective, MLC, a non-profit organization that argued the change was a maneuver to reduce payments, as there were no changes to the premium plan nor a reduction in Spotify's revenue. However, these lawsuits were dismissed. A judge ruled that audiobook streaming is a distinct product from music streaming and has more than symbolic value, therefore premium is correctly categorized as a bundle. Justified or not, one thing is clear. For Spotify to achieve profitability, it had to increase revenue and, crucially, reduce royalty payments. And even audiobook authors might not be gaining as much as it seems. Spotify pays per minute listened, and only if 10% of a book is consumed. For a long audiobook like The Lord of the Rings, 10% can mean several hours of listening. If a listener abandons the book before that, the author receives no payment. It seems that for Spotify to win, artists, whether musicians or now also authors, have to lose. Streaming is incredibly convenient and helped reduce music piracy, but it's hard to claim it's the ideal solution for the industry. A user-centric system where your subscription directly supports those you listen to would be a step towards fairness. Meanwhile, if you wish to support an artist, the most direct way remains to buy their music or merchandise.